on the United States there in your answer, and it's no secret that just like Russia, relations between the US and China aren't exactly great at the moment, and that indeed was exemplified by this the alleged spy balloon. The US called it a spy balloon, China called it a weather balloon. I'm sorry to bring that up again because I believe it was blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
But how do you think that incident?
That's true.
How do you think it was handled? Because Antony Blinken, he did cancel his visit to China in light of that, at a time that you would have thought that maybe it would be a great time for both countries to talk.
Indeed, it's harmless, whatever you call a balloon or airship, whatever. It could be handled. That happens, on many parts of the world with different countries, weather balloons, whatever. Yet the United States choose to handle the case in such a heavy-handed way. In the first place, it is a kind of affront to the Chinese people. We are not happy about this. Second, from our analysis, it's largely to divert people's attention from U.S. domestic troubles and crises. At that time, there was this Ohio poison gas leak, the railway crisis, whatever problem, and then the leak of poisonous gas, and of course, financial and other problems. So that's the problem with the United States. It's domestic problems, and then politicians try to focus on China and Russia as a way to divert people's attention from their own domestic problems, which are very serious.
It seems like the oldest political trick in the book to divert away from domestic problems by finding a foreign one. What do you make of the US approach towards Taiwan? Obviously, there was Nancy Pelosi's visit there. They've been sending military aid to Taiwan. This is obviously going to be it is a huge point of contention between the two countries. And do you think there's any way that the two can sort of resolve this and find common ground?
No, for that particular visit by Nancy Pelosi, it's of course against all the official communications, documents, treaties between China and the United States about one China. And interestingly, after that particular visit, China held a large-scale military exercises and virtually surrounded the Taiwan island, and virtually eliminated the so-called Taiwan's territorial air and the water, and also the middle line, so-called middle line in the Taiwan Straits. All this were abolished. So actually, whatever provocations the United States, together with the pro-independence forces in Taiwan, whatever they do, in the end, the result is it's one step closer to China's unification.
Indeed. Now, moving on to more financial issues at the moment. Obviously, in the news last week, there was this the collapse of those two big banks in the United States. There was Silicon Valley Bank, and then that spread a little bit with questions raised over Credit Suisse, which may merge into UBS. Has this banking crisis reached China at all, or not? Is China more insulated from some of these issues in the West?
No, China, we discussed this at length many years ago with our American counterparts. We said that you need to reform your financial institutions. This kind of casino capitalism has to be brought into play. I would say the enemy of the United States is not China, not Russia, but Wall Street. It has to be regulated. Otherwise, you have one crisis after another. In the year 2008, the crisis, and the Chinese came to help the United States. And I said, back then, mind your own business. Next time we'll not help you. Because after our assistance, what happened was the United States in the famous fable, a farmer and the snake in the Aesop fables, not grateful. Then they began to punish China, hostile to China, and take all kinds of provocative actions against China. China are not happy about this. So this time, United States, you take your own responsibility, solve your own problems. It's your business.
Well, yeah,
it's bound to happen. China has been doing all this job.
Sorry, apologies for interrupting you. Yeah, as you mentioned, in 2008, the then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton went to China, encouraging China to buy US debt.
That's true.
You can certainly not really imagine a situation where Anthony Blinken would go cap in hand to China, asking China to borrow US to buy US debt now.
In fact, U.S. Financial Secretary planned to visit China during the month of December. Then this bad handling of balloon, as a result, the visit was cancelled. So I think she almost make it open. Please buy our treasuries. China, please come to help us. Yet there are domestic rivalries and problems and between different positions and different people. Say, financial secretary is one position, trade representative is another position, White House is another position. So that's problem in the United States. You have to sort out your own problems first.
Well, and talking about the US and what it perceives to be problems is the Biden administration has recently demanded that the China's owners of TikTok, they sell their stake in the social media app or risk a possible ban of TikTok. So TikTok in the US. But they say that any sale of TikTok would have to be approved by Chinese regulators. It's a bit of a mess. And what do you make of this hysteria around not just TikTok, but also Huawei's also been kicked out of a lot of infrastructure in the UK, the US, and I believe some cameras in Australia as well were removed from some government departments.
And I think, in fact, it is about the technology. United States is unwilling to engage other countries in a fair competition. China is not afraid of competition. If it's with the same rule, and after all, neoliberalism talks about the competition is better for consumers, for everyone, win-win. Yet, when United States loses its tech advantages, then it abandons all these textbook economics. If you look at Huawei is far more advanced in 5G and other related technologies. And TikTok is far more advanced in the United States in algorithm and AI technologies. So that somehow has frightened the United States, and the US companies cannot compete with these Chinese companies. So they began to adopt this kind of approach, which is unfair and also very mean. On the other hand, say TikTok now has over 100 million active users in the United States. So my sympathy for the American users of TikTok. It's so easy to use, so much fun, but they cannot enjoy. They have to cope with secondary, third rate technologies.
Okay. Well, I believe the US concern that was China would get some sort of information from the users from TikTok. How would you comment on that? I'm not too sure what information exactly China could glean from some young adolescents swiping on social media.
That's true. Yeah. No, even on that matter, there was a kind of negotiations going on between relevant companies. The basic idea is the data, so-called the data collected by TikTok, will be stored in the United States and then handled by a US high-tech company. And both countries have agreed more or less on that approach. But yet again, in today's political environment, everything about China, Russia is politicized. And the politicians in the United States, they do not represent the interests of the American people. They work for their own interest. They try to play up, and then in a stage of hysteria. So we'll wait and see to what extent, say, the American people, especially the young, they are also the voters. They will agree to the American government's approach to TikTok or not.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what do you make of this banishment of Huawei from critical infrastructure in the 5G networks of the UK and the US? And I believe, as I said before, Australia has also got rid of some Chinese cameras. I can't remember if they were Huawei or not. A prudent move or paranoia? And how does Huawei recover from this?
No, Huawei actually is doing very well. And in the first place, China itself is a huge market. And secondly, Huawei has focused on breakthrough in basic science and technologies, and for over a decade. And now they have already, I just read a report not long ago, they have really sought out all whatever the spare parts for the United States, and they have then deleted all the spare parts, Huawei products, 99%, if not more, are made in China. Now with that, they are making profits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing China. It's taken a much more, and correct me if I'm wrong, a much more active role in global politics. There's the Belt and Road scheme, there's the infrastructure projects in Africa, the mediation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the bilateral relations with Russia. We're definitely seeing a more active China. Where do you see the country's direction going in the next 5-10 years or so? Do you envisage that China will keep on this path of taking a real and major role in global politics, counterbalancing, the US hegemony maybe?
Yeah. In the first place, Chinese genuinely believe that China has benefited from the existing international order. Yet, this order is also problematic. It should be reformed. Otherwise, it cannot meet the demands of the many peoples of the world. For instance, BRI. This deficit, infrastructure deficit, is immense in the developing world. And China has strengths in that particular domain. So we say, why not? Let's offer public goods, like BRI initiative. It's so well received by, 140 countries. So this is only natural. And China is, perhaps with my slight Chinese bias, but yet I've traveled all over the world, over 100 countries. China is one of very few countries that have really found its own way to success, to modernization. And China has achieved over the past several decades what I called 4 industrial revolutions in one. We completed 4 industrial revolutions in one. In other words, China is the only country today can provide goods, technologies, services from all the first, second, third, fourth industrial revolution to the international consumers and meet their demands. So with this kind of rise of China as a civilizational state, our belief is, as I said, not divide and rule. We said unite and prosper. We hope Africa will be more united, Middle East will be more united, Southeast Asia will be more united, Latin America will be more united. And then let's build up prosperity and what Xi Jinping called shared future for mankind, one human community. Yeah.
Well, Zhang
That's
Weiwei.
the Chinese perception and philosophy. We believe in that. Yeah.
Well, Zhang Weiwei, Dean of the China Institute of the Fudan University, joining us live from Beijing. That seems like a suitably optimistic point to leave this interview. I'd like to thank you very much for your time and for your thoughts today. It's been an absolute pleasure discussing all these wide range of global issues with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.